Mastermind, Strategist for Hire. Written by Clouds, My Head in the Clouds Not Coming Down. And read by Eleanor Elizabeth. Chapter 33. Jiren. Izuku ducked into an alley as he waited for his bullies to follow. He didn't have any big meetings for a few days, so he figured now was as good a time as any to let them leave a few bruises. Ito, or Knockoff Kachan, as Izuku liked to think of him, charged into the alley with his fists raised, and Izuku resisted the urge to roll his eyes. All of a sudden, a taller man with a similar build to Ito followed him into the alley. "Yo, Mom wanted us home early today, or did you forget?" Ito scoffed at the man, who was apparently his brother. "I'm kinda in the middle of teaching some nerd a lesson. I'll be home soon." The man glanced over at Izuku, then froze. Izuku could see the gears turning in his head, and Izuku smiled slightly. He remembered hearing that Ito's older brother was a drug dealer from one of the local gangs. Izuku couldn't remember if he'd ever gotten around to working with them, but the brother had apparently heard of him, if his obvious fear was any indication. "Dude." The brother grabbed Ito's shoulder and turned away. "Don't mess with that one." He glanced back at Izuku, who smiled and raised an eyebrow at him. Ito followed his brother's gaze, and Izuku gave his best terrified teenager look, laughing internally at the intense confusion that crossed the brother's face. "What the fuck are you talking about? This nerd's a good-for-nothing, quirkless weakling." "Shut up!" his brother hissed, then turned to Izuku and bowed slightly. "I'm so sorry about my brother's behavior. I'll take him home now." He grabbed Ito by the arm and dragged him out of the alley as Izuku tried not to laugh. As he climbed the fire escape to take a shortcut to his base, he could still hear Ito yelling. "What was that? Why'd you protect the damn nerd?" Izuku shook his head. Looks like he might need to find a new bully. Ugh. Izuku groaned as he hung up the phone, and Shoto started to rub circles into his back. "What is it? Are your clients being annoying again?" Izuku shook his head. "No, it's just... Jiren hasn't really been the same since he was abducted." Shoto nodded. "Yeah, I mean, they did torture him for no good reason, but he refused to talk, so, I mean, he's still Jiren, right?" Izuku huffed. "You'd think so, but I think staying silent took the last bit of backbone he had left." He dragged a hand down his face. "I hate to say it, but I think Jiren's gone soft." Shoto sighed. "That's annoying. He was one of the best brokers in the underground. It's a shame to lose someone like him." Izuku looked at Shoto. "Have you been having any problems with him recently?" Shoto shrugged. "I remember Shigaraki complaining about some of our shipments being subpar, but then again, it's Shigaraki, so he's always complaining about something." Izuku nodded absently. "I remember hearing he dropped a few clients too. I mean..." Izuku thought for a minute. "I feel bad, because he really helped me get on my feet when I was just starting out, but I've been finding clients almost entirely on my reputation for most of my career, so I don't really need him anymore, especially not if he's going to keep going this way." "So, you're going to drop him?" Shoto asked. Izuku frowned. "Yes, it's just..." He groaned. "I'm concerned that things are going to get worse. I've heard what happens to villains who start going soft. First, it's just subpar work. Then, it's losing the conviction to do what needs to be done. Then, soon enough, they're turning to the heroes and asking for a plea deal." Shoto's eyes widened. "You think Jiren's going to betray you?" Izuku shrugged. "I don't know. What I do know is that he knows too much, and that he could destroy me if he really tried." He groaned. "What am I supposed to do, Shoto?" "You could always take him out." Izuku searched Shoto's face for any indication that he was joking, but couldn't find any. You can't be serious. Why would I take him out?" Shoto shrugged. "It seems to me, right now, Jiren is more of a liability than an asset, and it might be only a matter of time before he betrays you. But if you play your cards right, and send a message, he could be worth more to you dead than alive." Izuku frowned, but his brain started running through the possibilities. He didn't really need Jiren anymore. He had enough of his own connections that it wouldn't hurt his business if Jiren were to die suspiciously. He had Labrava's program to run his hostage situation, so he didn't even need Jiren for that anymore. It had been a while since he set up his hostage situation, and he did need to make sure the police remembered he was the one calling the shots here. Izuku smiled slightly at his boyfriend. It just might work. Detective Tsukashi, we just received an anonymous tip about a broker who might know Mastermind's identity. Tsukashi looked up from his notes and stared at Officer Sansa in shock for a few moments. What? How soon can we bring him in? Sansa smiled. We already had a team go pick him up. He should be here in a few minutes. Tsukashi nodded and stood, straightening his tie and making sure he had everything he needed for the interrogation. The Mastermind case had outgrown its case file and had been transferred to a box, so Tsukashi grabbed only the most important pieces of evidence before heading to the interrogation room. When he got there, the broker was already sitting handcuffed to the table. Tsukashi's eyes widened when they fell on the mechanical fingers of his right hand, and he was willing to bet that this was the guy whose fingers they'd found placed around the city last month. Had Mastermind been responsible for that? Hello, my name is Detective Tsukashi, my quirk. Yeah, I know who you are, Detective Lie Detector. The broker twitched nervously. Still doesn't explain why I'm here or how you found me. Tsukashi sighed. Since you know my quirk, I should let you know that it is always active, and I will be using it during the course of this interview, which is being recorded. Can you state your name for the record? Jiren. Tsukashi's eyes widened. He'd heard of Jiren. He was one of the most successful brokers in the underground. But from what he'd heard, Jiren was always smirking and unconcerned with everything. That just didn't match with the man in front of him. Unless... Tsukashi's eyes flickered to the mechanical hand that was on full display on the table between them. An experience like that probably left a lot more mental scars than physical. All right, Jiren, are you going to give me a real name? Jiren scoffed, and Tsukashi rolled his eyes. Okay then, what can you tell me about Mastermind? I can tell you that only an idiot would turn on him. Jiren gave a strained smile. And I'm not an idiot. Tsukashi sighed. Any information you give us will be invaluable, Jiren. I'm sure we'd be able to negotiate time off your sentence. Your black market dealings come with quite the penalty. We'll even protect you from Mastermind. Jiren looked at him skeptically. Like you protected Wash? Tsukashi's blood ran cold at the reminder. Even though it had been months, he still hadn't completely gotten over watching the hero he was supposed to protect die in front of him while he couldn't even move. He took a deep breath to clear his head, and Jiren laughed humorlessly. Look, I've known the kid since the beginning, and in all the times I've known him, I've never seen him fail at something that was important to him. You don't mess with someone like that, detective. Not if you want to stay alive. Tsukashi schooled his expression as he realized Nezu had been right about Mastermind being a teenager. Jiren hadn't seemed to notice he'd let Mastermind's age slip. So, if Tsukashi played his cards right, he might be able to get him to slip up again. Izuku quietly slipped out of the ventilation shaft and made his way towards the security room at the police station. At this time of day, there should just be one officer assigned to watch the monitors. So, the first order of business was to make sure he couldn't raise the alarm. The door opened silently, and Izuku kept his footsteps light as he slid his favourite knife from its sheath and slit the officer's throat before noting which interrogation room they put Jiren in. He cleaned the knife and put it away, adjusting his gloves and medical mask before heading out into the hall. He dressed as an intern today, with simple grey slacks and a dark blue button-up. He put charcoal powder in his hair so it looked more black than green. All in all, it was a meagre disguise, but Izuku was plain-looking enough that it wouldn't matter. He made sure to act confident as he made his way to the coffee machine, but not so confident as to draw attention to himself. He grabbed one of the paper cups from the stand on the table before taking a black Sharpie from his pocket and writing something on the bottom of the inside and filling it with coffee. Finally, he took a small packet that looked enough like sugar to not cause alarm and stirred the contents in with a fork, then hunched his shoulders slightly and made his way to the interrogation room. Officer Sansa, sir? Sansa looked up at him in surprise. Hello, who are you? Mimiku Akatani, sir. I just started my internship in the records department. I I thought the suspect might be thirsty, sir? He bowed slightly and held out the coffee. Sansa nodded. Good work, Akatani. He has been in there for a while, and maybe this will help him be a bit more talkative. In the future, though, it's probably best to wait for the detective to make the call. Sansa panicked slightly as Izuku's eyes watered with fake tears. Not that you did anything wrong. It's just sometimes the detectives are particular about their interrogation styles. You know what? I'll just take this in. I'm sure the suspect will enjoy it. Izuku bowed. Thank you so much. Sansa smiled. Yeah, sure. Have a good day, Akatani. Say hi to the records department for me. Izuku smirked and nodded, then walked out the front door as Sansa took the coffee to Jiren. As much as he'd enjoy watching the show, his plan was reckless enough as it was. Detective? Sansa poked his head through the door, and Tsukashi broke away from the staring contest he'd been having with Jiren. What is it, Sansa? One of the interns made the suspect some coffee, Sansa said, setting the cup down in front of Jiren. Thank goodness, I'm parched. Jiren grabbed the coffee as best as he could, still handcuffed to the table, and drank half of it in one swallow before grimacing. Ugh, I've had better coffee from gas stations. This may as well just be bitter water. Tsukashi rolled his eyes and waved Sansa back out of the room. Despite his protest about the quality, Jiren was still happily sipping the coffee. All right. How about you tell me how you met Mastermind? Jiren raised his eyebrows. You don't just meet Mastermind. You only find him if you're looking for him. And even then, you won't realize it's him the first 3 times you see him. Tsukashi nodded as Jiren took another drink. So, you sought him out. Was this before or after he started having face-to-face meetups with clients? What does it matter? Jiren dissolved into a coughing fit and frowned when he caught his breath again. It's not like it changes who he is. Tsukashi sighs. It matters for you. Say, if you forced him to escalate, it might be worse for you than if you'd met him afterwards. Jiren rolled his eyes and coughed again. If I encouraged him to meet face-to-face with clients, I'd be proud, not scared. Besides, Mastermind scares me more than you do. He downed the coffee and did a double take as he looked in the empty cup. I can have Sansa get you more coffee if you'd be agreeable, Tsukashi said. Jiren's eyes widened, and he threw the cup down on the table like it burned him, as he stared at it with something akin to betrayal. Who gave you the coffee? Tsukashi looked at him with confusion. What? The coffee! Who gave you the damn coffee? Jiren was becoming manic, and Tsukashi grabbed his shoulders as he tried to calm him down. I don't know, just an intern. Why does it matter? I didn't say anything, Jiren muttered. I didn't say anything. Why would he? I wasn't going to say anything. Tsukashi glanced at him, then grabbed the cup to see what had freaked Jiren out so badly. His stomach dropped as he saw Mastermind's signature M sprawled across the bottom in black Sharpie. Sansa, get a doctor in here now. Sansa threw open the door and took in the scene before rushing off as Tsukashi knelt beside the frantically muttering Jiren. Jiren, listen. He obviously doesn't care about you. I don't know how much time you have left, but tell me about him. It isn't going to make any difference at this point. Tell me. Jiren was starting to breathe harder and cough, but Tsukashi didn't know if it was from a panic attack or poison. His name is Jiren went limp as Tsukashi cursed and checked for a pulse, then frantically unlocked his handcuffs so he could move him to the floor and start chest compressions. Don't you dare die on me, Jiren, he muttered, knowing that it was probably useless to do chest compressions on a poison victim. Don't you dare die. The medical examiner, the closest thing they had to a doctor in the station, burst through the door. What happened? He's been poisoned, Tsukashi yelled. Do you know what he was poisoned with? Tsukashi shook his head, and the medical examiner pushed him gently to the side as he grabbed an EpiPen from his bag and shoved it into Jiren's thigh. They waited with bated breath as the examiner got out a stethoscope and checked him for a pulse for a solid minute, before looking up at him and shaking his head. Tsukashi crumpled. Everyone at the station was thirsty, but there was no way anyone was drinking anything until the investigation was finished. They'd sent both the cup and the coffee machine down to forensics, who had identified the poison as a fast-acting poison, completely soluble in water. It had been found in the cup, but not the rest of the coffee, which matched what they had found on the security tapes. Sansa had checked with the records department, and they had confirmed that there was no Mikumu Akatani interning there, and in fact, all their interns had started months ago. The only fingerprints on the poison cup had belonged to Sansa and Jiren, since the mystery intern had worn gloves. They had also found traces of charcoal powder on the cup, which Tsukashi thought had probably been used to colour the intern's hair. Tsukashi walked out the doors and sat on the front steps of the police station in an attempt to get some fresh air. The media was already swarming, but officers were keeping them away for now. Nezu had arrived shortly after Jiren's death, and he came to sit beside Tsukashi. The intern was the same height and build as Mastermind, Tsukashi said numbly. Same age as well, since Jiren basically confirmed we're looking for a teenager. Nezu nodded. I suspected as much. Tsukashi groaned. He was right here. He was in the police station, and we couldn't recognize him. Nezu put his paw on Tsukashi's shoulder. I know, but we're getting closer. We know his age, and we caught him on camera. We know his hair isn't black, otherwise he wouldn't have used the charcoal powder. And you and Hawks have both obtained some letters from his name. We have all the pieces to the puzzle. We just need to find out how they go together. Tsukashi took a deep breath and nodded. You're right. He gave a weak smile. Let's catch the guy. Hey there guys, gals and non-binary pals. It's Eleanor, and I hope you're having a lovely day today. We've got more Mastermind. This chapter was so fun. I just love when Izuku's just being like devious and evil and murderous. This, like, honestly, it gagged me a little bit. When he's just like, let me just drop out of the ventilation shaft, slit a man's throat, poison Jiren, and walk out in the middle of the police station. And they're all like, oh yeah, sure, intern, I'll take this coffee through. And I'm like, oh, you fools. You don't even know who you're dealing with. I feel a bit bad for Jiren though, because, you know, he's a nice guy and he did help Izuku, like, get to where he is now and really supported him, but, you know, my man has got to be cutthroat. This is serious business now. Though, you know, we do have the concern that the police are starting to learn more information about Izuku and Mastermind, and, well, as you know, there's only like 10 chapters left or something. Is that? I think so. 11. Somewhere near there. We're getting towards the end, so it's making me sweat, you know, I'm getting nervous. But what did you guys think about this chapter? Did you enjoy it? Did you think that Jiren was going to be able to get out any information before he died? Do you think it was fair for Izuku to kill Jiren? What would you have done? If you're Mastermind, you're a criminal Mastermind, what are you doing in this situation? Just let me know in the comments down below, because you know I love to talk to you guys. You can also like the video, you know, if you liked it, and to boost my serotonin levels. You can also subscribe to be notified whenever I make new videos. You can also join the Discord family. We have a great time over there. And you can also find me on various social medias. I also have a Ko-Fi if you want to support me there. But fun. And until I see you again, be sure to practice some self-care. Bed on time, hydration, guzzle down that water. Be sure you're eating your 5 a day, and don't forget to brush your teeth. Because yes, this is a threat, and I will catch you all laters.